15 black celebrities who have children with disabilities. Behind the luxury, fame, and red carpet smiles, some of the world's biggest celebrities were secretly fighting heartbreaking battles for their children. From autism and developmental disorders to life-threatening medical conditions, these stars faced fears that no amount of money or fame could erase. While millions admired them on stage and on screen, at home they were simply parents praying for miracles, searching for answers, and refusing to give up on the children they loved most. In this emotional episode, Black Celebrity Secrets reveals the untold stories behind celebrities like Usher, Toni Braxton, Shaquille O'Neal, Holly Robinson Peete, and more. Some of these journeys will truly shock you. Watch until the end because one celebrity's story changed Hollywood forever. And tell us in the comments, which family's struggle touched your heart the most? Usher. Usher Raymond IV is known worldwide as one of R&B's most successful performers, with a career built on smooth vocals, sharp choreography, and hits that defined an era. From Yeah to Burn, he became a symbol of control, confidence, and star power. But behind the stage lights, Usher has also lived through one of the most terrifying experiences any parent could face, nearly losing a child in a sudden accident. In 2013, his son, Usher Raymond V, was only 5 years old when a frightening incident happened at the family's Atlanta home. While playing in the swimming pool, the young boy tried to retrieve a toy and got his arm stuck in the pool drain. The suction was strong, and within moments, what looked like an ordinary day turned into a life-threatening emergency. Family members and staff tried desperately to pull him free, but the force of the drain made it nearly impossible. 2 workers nearby rushed in to help, and after urgent effort, they managed to release him. The child was then given CPR and taken to the hospital where he recovered. This story fits the title not because Usher's son has a publicly confirmed lifelong disability, but because it shows a serious childhood medical emergency that deeply affected the family. The difference matters. There is no need to exaggerate it into a permanent condition. The real story is already powerful enough. For Usher, fame, money, and global recognition meant nothing in that moment. He was not a superstar on stage. He was simply a father terrified for his son's life. That is what makes this case so gripping. 1 second of danger can erase every layer of celebrity and reveal the human fear underneath. Usher's story reminds viewers that behind every perfect-looking celebrity family, there can be moments of panic the public never fully sees. And sometimes, survival itself becomes the miracle. Holly Robinson Peete. Holly Robinson Peete built a respected career as an actress, host, and advocate. But one of the most meaningful chapters of her life began far away from Hollywood scripts. Known for roles in 21 Jump Street and Hangin' with Mr. Cooper, Holly had long been admired for her warmth and strength. Yet her greatest test came when her son, Rodney R.J. Peete Jr., was diagnosed with autism as a young child. R.J. was born in 1997, and when he was around 3 years old, Holly and her husband, former NFL quarterback Rodney Peete, began receiving answers to the questions that had worried them. Their son struggled with communication, social interaction, and developmental milestones. The diagnosis was painful, not because it changed their love for him, but because it forced the family into a world of uncertainty. Doctors reportedly warned the family that RJ might face major limitations in independence, but Holly refused to let one diagnosis decide his future. She became deeply involved in therapies, education support, and autism awareness. Instead of hiding the journey, she used her platform to help other families feel less alone. Over time, RJ made remarkable progress. One of the most inspiring parts of his story is that he later worked with the Los Angeles Dodgers, a milestone that became a symbol of independence, growth, and opportunity. For many parents of children with autism, RJ's journey offered hope without pretending the road was easy. Holly and Rodney also founded the HollyRod Foundation, which supports families affected by autism and Parkinson's disease. Through that work, Holly turned her private struggle into public service. What makes Holly Robinson Peete's story so powerful is its honesty. It is not about pity. It is about patience, advocacy, and refusing to underestimate a child. Her family's journey proves that a diagnosis can change the path, but it does not have to erase the future. Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal spent most of his life looking invincible, standing over 7 feet tall, dominating NBA courts, winning 4 championships, and becoming one of basketball's most recognizable legends. Shaq built an image centered around strength and confidence. Fans saw him as unstoppable. But behind the humor, trophies, and television personality was a father forced to confront something he could not overpower: the possibility of losing his son. In 2018, Shaq's son, Shaquille O'Neal, was preparing for his freshman basketball season at UCLA when routine medical testing revealed a serious heart condition. Doctors diagnosed him with a congenital issue involving a major coronary artery, a condition that required open heart surgery. For a family deeply connected to basketball, the news was devastating. Sharif had inherited not only his father's height and talent, but also the dream of building his own future in the sport. Suddenly, that future became uncertain. The surgery took place in December 2018. Sharif was only 18 years old. Recovery was brutal. Open-heart surgery is physically and emotionally overwhelming for anyone, especially a young athlete whose entire identity revolves around physical performance. For months, Sharif had to relearn strength, endurance, and confidence while the basketball world watched closely. What makes this story so emotional is the contrast between public image and private fear. Shaquille O'Neal always appeared larger than life, but no amount of fame or success could protect his child from a medical crisis. Interviews afterward revealed how deeply the experience affected him as a father. Remarkably, Sharif recovered and returned to basketball, transforming his story from tragedy into resilience. Instead of allowing the diagnosis to define him, he openly discussed the mental and physical challenges of recovery, inspiring many young athletes dealing with hidden health conditions. Shaq's story resonates because it reveals the vulnerability hidden behind greatness. The powerful superstar millions admired was suddenly just a parent waiting for good news from an operating room. And for many viewers, that emotional shift makes the story unforgettable. Toni Braxton. Toni Braxton became one of the defining voices of 1990s R&B with emotional classics like Unbreak My Heart and Breathe Again. Her elegant image, smoky voice, and massive success made her an international superstar. But behind the platinum albums and sold-out performances, Toni faced a deeply personal challenge that changed the way she understood motherhood forever. Her youngest son, Diesel Braxton Lewis, was diagnosed with autism as a child. Toni has spoken publicly about how confusing and painful those early years were for her family. As a toddler, Diesel struggled with communication and social interaction. He often appeared disconnected from the world around him, and simple milestones other children reached naturally became difficult obstacles. At first, Toni admitted she did not fully understand what was happening. Like many parents facing autism for the first time, she searched desperately for answers, treatments, and support. Eventually, specialists confirmed the diagnosis, beginning a long journey filled with therapy sessions, educational planning, and emotional adjustment. What makes Toni Braxton's story especially powerful is that she chose openness instead of silence. Rather than hiding her son's condition, she became an advocate for autism awareness and early intervention. She worked with organizations such as Autism Speaks and used interviews to encourage parents to seek help early if they noticed developmental differences in their children. Over time, Diesel made significant progress. Toni later shared that he was thriving academically and socially, which gave hope to many families navigating similar situations. Importantly, her story evolved beyond fear and diagnosis into something much more inspiring: growth, patience, and perseverance. Unlike exaggerated celebrity stories online, Toni's real experience is already emotionally compelling without dramatic inventions. She was not fighting for chart success or awards during those moments. She was fighting for understanding, guidance, and the best possible future for her child. That emotional honesty is what continues to connect audiences to her journey. Behind the glamorous image of a global superstar was a mother learning that unconditional love sometimes means entering unfamiliar territory with no guarantees and refusing to give up anyway. Taraji P. Henson. Taraji P. Henson built her career through determination, resilience, and unforgettable performances in films and television series like Empire, Hidden Figures, and The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Audiences know her for confidence, humor, and emotional strength on screen. But away from Hollywood, Taraji has lived through a deeply personal struggle involving trauma, grief, and the emotional well-being of her only son, Marcel Johnson. In 2003, Marcel's father, William Lamar Johnson, was tragically murdered. Marcel was still a child at the time, and the loss changed the emotional direction of his life completely. Taraji later spoke publicly about how difficult it was helping her son process grief at such a young age, while also navigating her own pain as a mother. Unlike many sensationalized internet stories, there is no verified evidence that Marcel suffered dramatic hospitalizations or life-threatening psychiatric episodes, as some viral videos claim. What is real, however, is the emotional trauma caused by losing a parent through violence. Taraji has openly acknowledged that mental health became an important issue inside her family, especially within the Black community, where emotional struggles are often ignored or misunderstood. That personal experience eventually inspired her to become one of Hollywood's strongest mental health advocates. In 2018, she founded the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation, named after her father, to support mental health awareness and improve access to care for underserved communities. Through interviews, speeches, and activism, Taraji repeatedly emphasized how important therapy, emotional support, and honest conversations can be for young people dealing with trauma. What makes her story so emotional is that it reflects a very real kind of invisible struggle. Marcel's pain was not a sensational headline or a fictional medical mystery. It was grief, emotional loss, and the difficult process of healing after tragedy. Today, Marcel has explored modeling and entertainment while maintaining a relatively private life. And for Taraji, success in Hollywood has never mattered more than protecting her son's emotional future. Her story resonates because it reminds audiences that even the strongest celebrities cannot shield their children completely from pain, but they can fight every day to help them survive it. Fantasia Barrino. Fantasia Barrino's life has always been defined by struggle, survival, and emotional honesty. From winning American Idol in 2004 to becoming one of the most recognizable voices in modern R&B and gospel-inspired soul, Fantasia built a career that connected deeply with audiences because her pain never sounded fake. But one of her most personal battles did not happen on stage. It happened while watching her son struggle quietly inside the classroom. Fantasia's son, Dallas Xavier Burrino, reportedly faced learning difficulties connected to dyslexia during his early education years. Reading, writing, and processing information became frustrating challenges that affected his confidence and school experience. While other children advanced naturally, Dallas reportedly needed extra educational support and guidance to keep pace academically. For Fantasia, the situation felt painfully familiar. She has openly discussed her own struggles with literacy in the past, including difficulties reading contracts and educational material during parts of her early career. That personal history gave her a deeper understanding of what her son was facing emotionally. She knew firsthand how learning difficulties can damage self-esteem when children begin feeling different from their classmates. Instead of hiding the issue, Fantasia focused on helping Dallas through tutoring, support programs, and constant encouragement. Over time, his progress became one of the family's proudest achievements. In 2022, public posts celebrating Dallas receiving academic recognition inspired many fans because the moment represented persistence rather than perfection. What makes Fantasia's story especially powerful is the emotional connection between mother and son. This was not simply a celebrity discussing a diagnosis from a distance. It was someone who understood struggle personally and refused to let her child feel defeated by it. Unlike exaggerated celebrity content online, the strength of this story comes from its realism. Dyslexia is often misunderstood, and many children silently battle feelings of embarrassment and frustration in school environments. Fantasia's openness helped normalize those conversations for families facing similar challenges. Her journey reminds audiences that success is not always measured by fame or awards. Sometimes the greatest victory is helping a child believe they are capable, even during moments when the world makes them feel left behind. D.L. Hughley. D.L. Hughley became famous for his sharp comedy, fearless social commentary, and unforgettable performances as one of the original kings of comedy. On stage, he built a career making audiences laugh through honesty and confidence. But away from the spotlight, Hughley faced a much quieter and more personal challenge involving his son Kyle and the realities of raising a child on the autism spectrum. Hughley has publicly discussed how his family discovered early that Kyle processed the world differently from other children. Social interaction, communication, and changes in routine often became difficult for him. At a time when autism and Asperger-related diagnoses were not widely understood in many communities, the family initially struggled to fully understand what Kyle needed emotionally and educationally. What makes this story resonate so strongly is the honesty behind it. D.L. Hughley never presented the experience as simple or inspirational every single day. He acknowledged confusion, frustration, and fear while learning how to support his son properly. That realism made many parents connect with his journey because it reflected the uncertainty families often feel after a diagnosis. Unlike the exaggerated stories frequently seen online, there is no need to invent dramatic hospital scenes or fictional crises. The genuine challenge was already significant, helping a child navigate a world that often misunderstands neurodivergent behavior. Hughley emphasized the importance of patience, structure, education, and acceptance instead of shame. Over time, Kyle made substantial progress academically and socially. Reports and interviews surrounding the family often highlighted how support and consistency helped him grow into an independent adult capable of building his own future. For Hughley, that progress became one of his proudest accomplishments, greater than television ratings or sold-out comedy shows. The emotional power of this story comes from seeing a comedian known for confidence publicly admit vulnerability as a father. Audiences were used to hearing D.L. Hughley joke about life's chaos, but this situation carried genuine emotional weight. His family's experience also helped normalize conversations about autism within Black communities, where mental health and developmental disorders are sometimes misunderstood or under-discussed. That lasting impact may ultimately matter more than any performance he ever gave on stage. Kandi Burruss. Kandi Burruss has spent decades building success in music, television, and business. From writing hit songs for major artists to becoming one of the standout personalities on The Real Housewives of Atlanta, she created an image associated with confidence, intelligence, and non-stop ambition. But behind the cameras, one of the most emotional moments of her life began shortly after the birth of her son, Ace Wells Tucker. Ace was born in 2016, and according to Kandi, the early days of motherhood quickly became filled with fear and uncertainty. Her son experienced respiratory complications shortly after birth, requiring close medical attention during a period that should have been joyful and peaceful for the family. Although some online videos exaggerate the severity of the situation, the underlying health concerns were real enough to deeply affect Kandi emotionally. For any parent, watching a newborn struggle to breathe is terrifying. Kandi later reflected on how stressful those early moments felt because babies are so fragile, especially during medical complications that doctors must monitor constantly. Even after Ace recovered and became healthy, the emotional memory of those frightening days stayed with her. What makes Kandi Burruss's story especially relatable is that it highlights a kind of fear many families experience privately. This was not about fame, luxury, or celebrity image. It was about a mother standing beside her child, hoping each day would bring improvement. As Ace grew older, he became a happy and energetic child, frequently appearing alongside Kandi on television and social media. Watching him thrive after those difficult beginnings made the story even more emotional for longtime fans who followed the family closely. Kandi's experience also reflects how quickly life can shift for parents. One moment everything appears perfect from the outside, and the next moment fear completely takes over. Celebrity status offers no protection from those emotions. Today, Kandi Burruss continues balancing business success and family life, but her story with Ace remains one of the clearest reminders that behind every glamorous public image, there are real moments of anxiety, vulnerability, and parental love that audiences rarely fully see. Sylvester Stallone. Sylvester Stallone built one of the most legendary careers in Hollywood history through characters defined by strength, toughness, and survival. From Rocky to Rambo, he became a global symbol of resilience and determination. On screen, Stallone looked nearly indestructible, but behind the action movies and worldwide fame, he faced a deeply personal challenge involving his son, Sergio Stallone, that changed his family's life forever. Sergio was born in 1979 and appeared briefly as an infant in Rocky II. At first, everything seemed normal, but as he grew older, Sylvester and his family noticed developmental differences that became increasingly difficult to ignore. Unlike other children his age, Sergio struggled with communication and social interaction. Eventually, doctors diagnosed him with autism at a young age. The diagnosis shocked the family. During the early 1980s, autism was far less understood publicly than it is today, and many families faced confusion, stigma, and limited support systems. For Stallone, the experience was emotionally devastating because there was no action scene, training montage, or Hollywood solution capable of fixing what his son was going through. Rather than turning the situation into publicity, the Stallone family chose to protect Sergio's privacy. Sylvester and his then-wife Sasha Tsack dedicated enormous amounts of time and financial resources toward therapies and specialized care. Reports from that period described Stallone working tirelessly to support treatment programs while also continuing his demanding film career. What makes this story so emotional is the contrast between Stallone's public image and private reality. Audiences saw an unstoppable movie icon defeating enemies on screen, while privately, he was confronting something far more painful, watching his child struggle in ways he could not fully control. Unlike sensationalized internet stories, the truth itself already carries emotional weight. Sergio largely remained out of the public spotlight throughout his life, and Stallone rarely exploited the situation publicly for attention. Today, Sylvester Stallone's journey as a father resonates because it reveals a vulnerable side many fans never expected to see. Beneath the fame, muscles, and blockbuster success was a parent fighting quietly for his child's well-being, just like millions of ordinary families around the world. Jenny McCarthy. Jenny McCarthy became famous as a television personality, actress, model, and outspoken media figure known for her bold personality and fearless opinions. But beyond the entertainment world, one of the most defining chapters of her life began when her son, Evan, was diagnosed with autism at a young age. According to McCarthy, Evan showed developmental differences during early childhood that deeply concerned her. She described moments when he stopped responding normally, struggled with communication, and experienced behavioral changes that made her fear something serious was happening. Eventually, doctors confirmed he was on the autism spectrum, beginning a journey that transformed her life completely. Unlike many celebrities who keep family struggles private, Jenny chose to speak publicly and constantly about autism awareness. She became one of the most recognizable celebrity parents connected to autism advocacy during the 2000s. Through interviews, television appearances, books, and activism, she discussed therapies, treatments, and the emotional impact autism had on her family. What made Jenny McCarthy's story especially controversial, however, was her public promotion of claims linking vaccines to autism, a theory widely rejected by major scientific and medical organizations. While her advocacy helped bring national attention to autism awareness, many experts strongly criticized the misinformation surrounding some of her medical views. Still, separating the controversy from the emotional reality is important. At the center of the story was a mother desperately searching for answers and trying to help her child improve. Jenny repeatedly spoke about wanting parents to feel less isolated and more informed when navigating developmental disorders. Over time, she shared updates showing Evan making progress academically and socially, offering hope to families facing similar challenges. Her openness encouraged larger public conversations about autism during a period when many people still misunderstood the condition. Jenny McCarthy's story remains compelling because it combines genuine parental fear, public activism, and intense controversy all at once. Whether audiences agreed with her methods or not, her experience highlighted how deeply a child's diagnosis can reshape a parent's identity, priorities, and entire relationship with the public world around them. John Travolta. John Travolta spent decades as one of Hollywood's most recognizable stars. From Grease and Saturday Night Fever to Pulp Fiction, he built a career defined by charisma, fame, and global success. Audiences saw him dancing across movie screens with confidence and energy, living what appeared to be a perfect celebrity life. But behind the spotlight, Travolta and his family endured years of emotional pain connected to the health struggles of his son, Jet Travolta. Jet was born in 1992 and reportedly experienced developmental and medical challenges from a young age. Over the years, public discussions surrounding his condition included reports of autism, seizures, and Kawasaki disease, although the family handled many details privately. What is undeniable is that Jet suffered from recurring seizure episodes throughout his life, creating constant fear and stress for his parents. As Jet grew older, the family worked hard to shield him from intense media attention. Unlike many celebrity families, the Travoltas rarely turned his condition into public storytelling. They focused instead on protecting his dignity and maintaining as normal a life as possible despite extraordinary public scrutiny. Everything changed tragically in January 2009 while the family vacationed in the Bahamas. Jet suffered a seizure, reportedly fell in a bathroom, and died at just 16 years old. The news devastated Hollywood and revealed the depth of pain the family had quietly carried for years. What makes John Travolta's story especially emotional is the silence surrounding it before the tragedy. Fans saw a successful actor smiling at premieres, while privately he was living with the fear every parent of a medically vulnerable child understands. The fear that one emergency could change everything forever. After Jet's death, Travolta admitted publicly that the loss nearly destroyed him emotionally. The experience transformed his life and priorities in ways fame could never repair. This story resonates because it strips away celebrity illusion completely. Beneath the awards, wealth, and movie stardom was a father desperately trying to protect his child from a condition he could not control. And in the end, the heartbreak became one of the most painful family tragedies Hollywood has ever witnessed. Gary Cole. Gary Cole may not be the loudest celebrity in Hollywood, but his career has earned enormous respect across television and film. Known for performances in projects like Office Space, Veep, and NCIS, Cole built a reputation as one of the industry's most dependable actors. Calm, professional, and versatile, he rarely lived inside celebrity drama headlines. Yet behind his steady career was a deeply personal journey involving his daughter Mary and autism. Gary Cole and his former wife, actress Teddy Siddall, publicly shared that their daughter was diagnosed with autism at an early age. At the time, awareness surrounding autism spectrum disorders was far less widespread than it is today, leaving many families struggling to understand what the diagnosis truly meant for their child's future. Mary reportedly faced challenges with communication, behavior, and social interaction, experiences familiar to many families raising children on the spectrum. Instead of hiding the reality, Gary Cole became quietly involved in advocacy and awareness efforts, speaking thoughtfully about the importance of patience, acceptance, and specialized support. What makes Gary Cole's story stand out is its grounded honesty. There were no dramatic tabloid scandals or exaggerated public spectacles attached to his family's journey. Instead, the emotional impact came from watching two parents adapt their entire lives around helping their daughter succeed in a world not always designed for neurodivergent children. Cole often emphasized that autism did not erase his daughter's personality or value. Rather than defining her only through diagnosis, he spoke about learning to understand her unique way of communicating and experiencing the world. That perspective resonated strongly with many parents who felt overwhelmed after receiving similar diagnoses for their own children. Unlike celebrity stories built around sensationalism, Gary Cole's experience feels deeply human because of its simplicity. It reflects the quiet, exhausting, and often invisible work families do every day to support children with developmental differences. Today, Gary Cole's story continues to inspire respect because it shows a side of celebrity rarely highlighted. Not glamour or fame, but consistent parental dedication. Behind the successful acting career was a father learning that patience, understanding, and unconditional support could matter far more than any role he ever played on screen. Dan Marino. Dan Marino is remembered as one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. During his legendary career with the Miami Dolphins, he became famous for his powerful arm, quick decision-making, and calm leadership under pressure. Fans watched him dominate football fields for years, appearing fearless in front of millions. But away from stadium lights and cheering crowds, Marino faced a challenge far more personal than any championship game: helping his son navigate life with autism. Dan Marino's son, Michael, was diagnosed with autism during childhood, a moment that changed the family's life completely. At the time, autism awareness was far more limited than it is today, and many families struggled to find clear answers, proper treatment, and emotional support. For Dan and his wife, Claire, the diagnosis introduced a world filled with uncertainty, difficult decisions, and constant concern for their child's future. Rather than hiding from the situation, the Marino family became active advocates for autism awareness and support services. They founded the Dan Marino Foundation in 1992, focusing on programs that help children and young adults with developmental disabilities transition into more independent lives. What began as a personal family struggle eventually grew into one of the most respected autism advocacy efforts connected to a major sports figure. What makes Dan Marino's story especially powerful is the contrast between public success and private vulnerability. On the football field, he looked completely in control. But as a father, he faced the same fears and emotional uncertainty experienced by countless families raising children with autism. Fame could not eliminate those fears or provide instant solutions. Over the years, Marino spoke openly about the importance of early intervention, specialized education, and long-term support systems. His willingness to discuss autism publicly helped reduce stigma during a time when many families still felt pressure to stay silent about developmental disorders. Today, Dan Marino's legacy extends beyond football statistics and Hall of Fame honors. For many people, his most meaningful impact came through advocacy, awareness, and using his platform to help families facing challenges similar to his own. His story resonates because it reminds audiences that true strength is not measured only by athletic achievements, but also by how someone responds when life demands compassion, patience, and unconditional love away from the spotlight. Jaclyn Smith. Jaclyn Smith became an international icon through her role in Charlie's Angels, where elegance, beauty, and confidence made her one of television's most recognizable stars. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, she represented glamour and success in Hollywood. But behind the polished image and celebrity lifestyle, Jaclyn also experienced the emotional reality of raising a child with learning challenges. Reports connected to Jaclyn Smith's family have discussed her son facing learning difficulties during his education years, requiring additional academic support and patience as he developed. Unlike dramatic celebrity stories often exaggerated online, this was not a sensational medical mystery or public crisis. Instead, it reflected a quieter but deeply personal struggle many families understand: watching a child work harder than others just to keep up in school. Learning disabilities can affect reading, writing, concentration, and confidence, especially during childhood when academic performance often shapes self-esteem. For parents, the emotional difficulty comes not only from the diagnosis itself, but from seeing frustration, embarrassment, or self-doubt grow inside a child who simply learns differently. What makes Jaclyn Smith's story meaningful is the way it highlights a reality often overlooked in celebrity culture. Not every family challenge involves dramatic headlines or life-threatening illness. Sometimes the most exhausting battles happen slowly and privately through years of educational support, emotional encouragement, and constant reassurance. Despite her glamorous public image, Jaclyn reportedly approached motherhood with intense dedication and protectiveness. Like many parents of children facing learning struggles, she focused on helping her child build confidence rather than allowing labels to define potential. Her story also reflects how discussions surrounding learning disabilities have evolved over time. Decades ago, many children were misunderstood as lazy or unmotivated when they were actually dealing with conditions requiring specialized teaching approaches. Families often felt isolated or unsure where to seek help. Today, Jaclyn Smith's experience resonates because it feels authentic and relatable. Beneath the fame, beauty campaigns, and television success was a mother dealing with concerns shared by millions of ordinary families. And in many ways, that quiet perseverance can be just as powerful as the dramatic stories that usually dominate headlines. Chris Burke. Chris Burke's story is different from many others connected to this topic because he was not only part of a family affected by disability, he became one of the most recognizable actors with Down syndrome in television history. Long before Hollywood seriously discussed inclusion and representation, Chris broke barriers that many people once believed could never be broken. Born in 1965 with Down syndrome, Chris entered a world where expectations for people with developmental disabilities were painfully low. At the time, many doctors still advised families to institutionalize children with Down syndrome rather than raise them at home. But Chris's parents refused to accept those limitations. Instead, they encouraged his independence, education, and confidence from an early age, believing he deserved the same opportunities as anyone else. As Chris grew older, he developed a passion for entertainment and public performance. That passion eventually led to the breakthrough role that changed his life forever: Corky Thatcher in the television series Life Goes On. Premiering in 1989, the show became groundbreaking because it featured one of the first major television characters with Down syndrome, played by an actor who actually had the condition. Millions of viewers watched Chris every week, And for many families, it was the first time they had ever seen someone with Down syndrome represented as a real person rather than a stereotype. What made Chris Burke's rise so powerful was that he challenged assumptions simply by existing publicly. He was funny, emotional, talented, independent, and relatable. Qualities society often refused to associate with people who had developmental disabilities during that era. Even after Life Goes On ended, Chris continued advocating for disability awareness and inclusion through public speaking, television appearances, and educational work. His visibility helped many parents feel hopeful about their own children's futures at a time when fear and misunderstanding still dominated conversations around Down syndrome. Unlike many celebrity stories driven by scandal or tragedy, Chris Burke's journey stands out because it is ultimately about possibility. His life showed audiences that disability does not erase talent, personality, ambition, or value. Today, Chris Burke remains an important figure in entertainment history because he helped change the way millions of people viewed Down syndrome. Not through pity, but through visibility, humanity, and undeniable talent. After hearing these stories, one emotional question still remains. Does fame make it easier for celebrity families to handle disabilities and health struggles? Or does the spotlight actually make their pain even harder to survive? Some people believe money and resources give these families advantages ordinary parents do not have. Others believe constant media attention creates even more pressure, fear, and emotional isolation behind closed doors. No matter the answer, one thing is clear. These parents fought for their children with everything they had. Which story impacted you the most? And which celebrity do you think handled their child's challenges with the greatest strength? Share your thoughts in the comments below because your opinion matters. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for Black Celebrity Secrets for more emotional, untold stories, hidden struggles, and real truths behind celebrity life.